buckle up because today we're diving into a case that's, well, it's as chilling as it is complex. We're talking about Anatoly Moskvin, the Russian historian who made those international headlines for his truly disturbing actions.
Yeah, this case isn't just about the macabre. It raises questions about grief and obsession and the boundaries of acceptable behavior,
Mm,
especially when mental illness is involved.
right. You shared some articles with us about Moskvin research, all that stuff, and our mission today is to kind of sift through all this information
Yeah.
and try and make sense of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll try to unpack the psychology behind his
Yeah.
actions and the cultural context and the lasting impact on the families involved.
So to kick things off, imagine this. Police in Russia enter the home of a respected historian, a published author, fluent in 13 languages.
Wow, 13.
Yeah, you'd expect to find books, manuscripts, maybe some artifacts.
Right.
But instead, they found something far more sinister.
We found 26 life-size dolls.
Yeah.
But these weren't ordinary dolls. They were made from the mummified bodies of young girls.
And some of them even had music boxes inside. So they would, they'd play nursery rhymes or even say mom when you touch them. I mean, that detail alone, just thinking about it, gives me the chills.
It's a truly bizarre and disturbing discovery. And to understand how it happened, we need to go back. We now understand who Anatoly Moskvin was, what led him down this dark path.
He was considered an expert in cemeteries and burial rituals. I mean, he literally had an index of over 10,000 graves. He even wrote a whole book about the history of cemeteries in the region.
Yeah. His knowledge of death and burial practices, it was extensive. And this fascination, some might even say obsession, seemed to stem from a deeply, deeply traumatic experience in his childhood.
Yeah, when he was just 12 years old, he was forced to kiss the deceased body of an 11-year-old girl at her funeral.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Moskvin himself claimed that this event, that was the catalyst for his lifelong fascination with the dead.
Yeah, it's a harrowing experience for a child to go through.
Yeah.
And it's certainly possible that, this trauma, that it shaped his perception of death.
Yeah.
And his relationship with it.
But there's another layer to this story. We need to explore it. Moskvin's yearning for fatherhood. He had actually tried to adopt a girl, but was rejected. And some experts believe this rejection, that it played a significant role in his actions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, imagine the pain, the frustration of wanting a child, but being denied that opportunity. It's possible that this unfulfilled desire, combined with his already, complex relationship with death, well, it manifested in a truly warped way.
It's like his grief, his trauma, and this longing for a child, it all converged into this one horrific outlet. He wasn't content with simply studying the dead. He wanted to create a family, a world where death didn't have the final say.
And this brings us to one of the most unsettling aspects of this case, Moskvin's belief. His belief that he was rescuing these girls. He claimed that he wasn't desecrating their bodies, but rather preserving them, protecting them from the cold and loneliness of the grave.
He even dressed them and painted their faces and talked to them as if they were still alive. It's clear that he had created a deeply delusional world around these dolls.
What's fascinating here is how his actions, as horrific as they are, they seem to stem from a place of twisted loving care. It's a perversion of the parental instinct, a desire to nurture and protect, but taken to a horrifying extreme.
It's a reminder that even the most monstrous acts can be rooted in emotions and desires that we all share, but that doesn't excuse them, of course.
Absolutely not. The harm he caused to the families of these girls, it's immeasurable. Imagine the pain, the anguish of knowing that your loved one's body was exhumed and used in this way.
And that pain was compounded by another bizarre aspect of this case, the kind angel notes. Now remember, Moskvin was a cemetery expert, so he knew his way around graveyards, and he used that knowledge to torment the families of his victims, leaving notes on their graves, signed DA. It stands for Kind Angel.
Kind Angel, oh my.
These notes, they were often addressed to the deceased girls as if they were still alive, mentioning things like school grades and congratulating them on the new school year.
It's a level of cruelty it's hard to fathom. He was deliberately playing with the emotions of these grieving families, adding another layer of trauma to an already unimaginable situation.
It's almost like he was trying to to insert himself into their grief, to become a part of their lives, even if it was in this twisted, macabre way.
That's a very insightful observation. It's as if he was trying to create a family, not just with the dolls, but also with the families of the girls he had taken.
And this desire for control, for connection, it seems to be a recurring theme in his actions. But there's another piece of this puzzle we need to fit in: the vandalism of Muslim graves.
Ah, yes. This was actually the incident that brought Moskvin to the attention of the authorities. They suspected him of being behind the desecration of these graves,
Yeah.
which happened shortly after the 2011 Moscow airport bombing.
So initially they thought it might be a hate crime, maybe even connected to Islamic fundamentalism,
Yeah.
but when they questioned Moskvin and his motive, well, it turned out to be something else entirely.
He admitted to vandalizing the Muslim graves
Yeah.
as an act of revenge. He had lost a civil case against a representative of the local Muslim community, and this was his way of lashing out.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in a case as complex and disturbing as this, there can be seemingly simple, almost banal motivations at play. But it also raises questions about the depth of his anger and his tendency to act out in destructive ways.
And it makes you wonder if the police had focused solely on the vandalism, would they have ever uncovered the truth about the human dolls? It's possible that this seemingly unrelated incident was the catalyst for uncovering a much larger and more disturbing truth.
So here we have a man who was deeply knowledgeable about death, who had experienced, a profound trauma in his childhood, who longed for a child but was denied, and who was capable of both great cruelty and bizarre acts of affection.
It's a complex picture, to say the least.
Oh.
And it sets the stage for a truly harrowing story that will challenge our understanding of human behavior, grief, and the boundaries of sanity.
Yeah.
It's hard to reconcile,
The image of this respected academic
Yeah.
with the horrifying reality of what police found in Moskvin's home,
Yeah.
the meticulous process he used to create these dolls. I mean, the mummification with soda and salt, the dressing and makeup, it suggests the level of premeditation that's both chilling and fascinating. It really does. It wasn't just a spur of the moment kind of thing. He carefully selected his victims. He targeted girls who had died tragically, often reading about their deaths in the news. It's almost like he was drawn to their stories, to their pain.
And he went to great lengths to maintain his collection, even stealing clothes from female corpses to dress his daughters. It speaks to a level of obsession that goes beyond, simple morbid curiosity.
Right. It wasn't just about death. It was about control, about creating this macabre fantasy world where he could play the role of protector and caretaker.
And this brings us to the crucial question of Moskvin's mental state. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a serious mental illness that can profoundly affect a person's thoughts, emotions, and behavior.
So was he truly aware of the wrongfulness of his actions? Could he control his impulses? These are questions the court had to grapple with.
Exactly. And ultimately, they found him not criminally responsible for his actions and committed him to a psychiatric facility. This decision, of course, this sparked a great deal of controversy and debate.
I can imagine. On the one hand, you have a man who committed truly horrific acts. On the other, you have a diagnosis of severe mental illness, suggesting that his ability to distinguish right from wrong was impaired.
It's a difficult situation with no easy answers, and it raises these complex questions about the intersection of mental health and criminal justice. Where do we draw the line between personal responsibility and the impact of mental illness?
And how do we balance compassion for those who are mentally ill with the need to protect society from harm?
These are questions that society continues to grapple with. And in Moskvin's case, the court ruled that he was too dangerous to be released despite ongoing treatment. He was confined to a secure psychiatric facility for nearly a decade.
But the story, it doesn't end there. In 2022, after years of treatment, the court reclassified Moskvin, potentially allowing for home care despite ongoing treatment. This decision, understandably, it caused a great deal of fear and anxiety, particularly for the families of his victims.
Natalia, the mother of Olga Chardomova, whose story we discussed earlier, she was particularly vocal about her concerns. Imagine the terror of knowing that the man who violated your daughter's grave
Yeah.
might be allowed to walk free.
Absolutely. It's a constant reminder of the trauma they endured, the feeling that justice was never truly served. And it speaks to the larger societal anxieties about the potential for recidivism among those with severe mental illness.
It highlights the ongoing challenge
Yeah.
of balancing individual rights with public safety. How do we ensure that people with mental illness receive the care they need
Yeah.
while also protecting the community from potential harm?
It's a complex dilemma with no easy solutions, and it's made even more complicated by the fact that mental illness is often misunderstood and stigmatized.
That's an important point. This case reminds us that we need to have these open and honest conversations about mental health. We need to educate ourselves, challenge our preconceptions, and advocate for better support systems for those who are struggling.
Because ultimately, this case isn't just about Anatoly Moskvin. It's about the complex interplay of mental illness, trauma, grief, and the human search for connection, even in the darkest of places.
And it's about the ripple effects of these experiences, how they can impact not just individuals, but also families, communities, and even society as a whole.
Yeah, the impact on the families of Moskvin's victims, it's immeasurable. They had to endure the unimaginable pain of losing their daughters, only to have their grief compounded by the violation of their graves, and the psychological torment inflicted by the kind angel notes.
It's a stark reminder that even in death, there's a need for dignity and respect. Moskvin's actions robbed these girls of their peace, even as he claimed to be rescuing them.
It's a chilling paradox that underscores the profound harm he caused. And it forces us to confront, our own mortality, our own fears and anxieties about death and loss.
You're right. This case, it pushes us to confront these uncomfortable questions about the way we grieve, the way we remember, and the way we deal with the inevitable reality of death.
It's not an easy conversation to have, but it's a necessary one, because in the end, the story, as disturbing as it is, can help us understand ourselves and each other a little bit better.
It reminds us of the fragility of the human psyche, the complexities of grief and trauma, and the importance of seeking help when we need it.
It also reminds us that even in the most macabre situations, there can be, glimmers of humanity, however twisted and distorted they may be.
Moskvin's desire for connection, for family, however misguided, it speaks to a universal human need. And while we can't condone his actions, we can try to understand the underlying emotions that drove them.
It's a reminder that we are all, complex beings, capable of both great love and terrible darkness.
Yeah.
And it's a call for compassion, for understanding, and for a more humane approach to mental health and the challenges we all face in navigating the complexities of life and death. This deep dive into the life and crimes of Anatoly Moskvin. I mean, it's been a journey into the darkest corners of the human psyche. And it'd be easy to just dismiss him as a monster, a purely evil individual.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. This case, it forces us to confront this uncomfortable reality that even the most disturbing acts, they can stem from emotions and desires that we all share. Moskvin's longing for connection, his need to control, his warped sense of love and care. I mean, these are all reflections of our shared humanity, however twisted they may be.
Yeah, it's like looking into a distorted mirror. We see ourselves in him, not in the specifics of his crimes, of course, but in the underlying emotions that drive them. And that's what makes this story so unsettling.
It challenges our assumptions about the boundaries of good and evil, of sanity and madness. And it forces us to ask ourselves, what would it take for any of us to cross that line? What are the forces, both internal and external, that shape our choices and define who we become?
It's a sobering thought, and it makes you wonder about the role of society in all of this. What could have been done differently? Could his descent into this darkness have been prevented?
That's a question that deserves careful consideration. But we know that Moskvin experienced a profound trauma in his childhood. We know that he struggled with mental illness, and we know that he was rejected when he tried to adopt a child. These are all risk factors that could have been addressed, potentially altering the course of his life.
It's a reminder that mental health matters. It's a reminder that trauma can have lasting effects. And it's a reminder that we need to be more proactive in supporting those who are struggling, especially those who, exhibit warning signs of potentially dangerous behavior.
We can't simply lock people away and forget about them. We need to invest in mental health services, in early intervention programs, in creating a society that is more understanding and supportive of those who are different.
It's not just about preventing tragedies like this from happening again. It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a fulfilling and meaningful life, regardless of their challenges.
And it's about recognizing that mental illness, it's not a sign of weakness or a character flaw. It's a health condition. That deserves the same care and attention as any other.
This deep dive has been a challenging one, to say the least.
Yeah.
But it's also been an important one. It's forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about our society, and about the complexities of the human condition.
We've explored the depths of human depravity, but we've also glimpsed the potential for redemption, for healing, and for growth.
And ultimately, that's what I hope you take away from this deep dive. A renewed sense of empathy, a deeper understanding of the challenges we all face, and a commitment to creating a world that is more just, more compassionate, and more supportive of everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. We encourage you to continue the conversation, to share your thoughts and insights, and to work together to build a better future.